So, good afternoon, Collective. This is Rich Brubaker, and I'm here today with Sandra Durrant, who is with Target. She's over here in China, actually on her exploration trip and with her leadership, and we are very happy to have her join us today. We'll be talking to her about her 14 years in this field and sustainability, what drove her to get into sustainability, but also why she's optimistic about the future. So we hope that you'll enjoy our time together. If you do, please share, everywhere around. Thank you very much, and we look forward to speaking with you. Please introduce yourself, a little bit about your personal background, and what you're currently doing for Target.
Okay. I'm Sandra Durrant. I'm a director of responsible sourcing, managing the environmental arm of our work. Started my career about 18 years ago. I was always focused in textiles. When I was little, I wanted to be a designer. So I started taking design classes and ended up taking a textile engineering class and just really geeked out on how fabrics were made and moved my career towards fabric engineering.
Okay.
And then early in my career as a fabric engineer, I started traveling overseas and started to see really the reality of how things were made, and started lobbying towards a better way of doing things, and would come to my boss with presentations of, here's what we need to do. We need to create a green bullseye and move more towards sustainability and environmental oversight. And through that timeline, eventually I moved into my dream job about 2 years ago in responsible sourcing.
So you're geeking out on textiles, but then you see the realities. What were the realities that hit you the hardest when you were first going out to factories or talking to the mills? Or what were the realities that hit you the hardest, or the most visible, that catalyzed you to think, okay, different way is needed?
I would say the pollution was the biggest reality, and just myself, me covering my mouth when I would walk into a factory and being like, how are they breathing? And how can people work in this environment day after day? And that was 18 years ago. The world has changed since then, but it was really alarming just to see the reality of it.
Why do you work for a corporation if you're this passionate? I thought the corporation's supposed to be greedy in promoting this. Why not work for an NGO, in your mind?
Because working for a corporation is where you can have the biggest impact, and working for someone the size of Target is really where you can help create the pivot point. Okay. We do mass amount of volume, and so if someone our size can be a leader and help to change that mindset and help to work on factory improvement, then at least I know I'm doing something tangible.
What are the main challenges that you think are faced by the industry, by the global brands, when it comes to actually getting their heads around the size of the challenge or the first points of kind of engagement?
I think there's two, actually. A lot of factory owners are businessmen. They're not the engineers that know how the products are made. And because a lot of times they're so separated from the work, they don't understand the correlation between efficiency and sustainability. And so I think what's hard is to show them the business case of, take all the environmental buzzwords out of it and just show them how this makes them more efficient, leaner operations, and more competitive. But you would think on paper that would be an easy win, but it's a little more difficult to get some factory owners into that mindset. So that is one of the biggest challenges.
What are the mental barriers that they have that you've...
I think one of the mental barriers is that this is just a side investment and it just needs to continue to move. I shouldn't have to continue to put money towards this investment. It should just run on its own, versus being able to show them, well, if you invest X amount of dollars, you will get a return on investment in 8 to 12 months. But how do you break down that barrier to say it may be 1 to 3 million US dollars, and that's a sticker shock, I think.
Okay.
I think it will come to
how have things changed in the industry over, say, the last 14 years then? I mean, 14 years ago, it wouldn't have been too far behind Nike and that scandal, and that was a very different time. What are some of the improvements that you've seen in that time, and what are a couple of the challenges you think that still linger?
I think one of the biggest improvements that has moved actually rather quickly is changes to regulation. Especially in China, they've been able to make very aggressive changes to environmental regulation in a very short amount of time, which creates this other challenge for the supply chain to actually get there.
Okay.
So while regulation's getting stricter, that's great for the people, but not so great for the factories because they're not given enough time.
What are some of the big wins you've seen? And regulation's big, is one.
Yeah. I would say one of the big wins is really people actually understanding what environmental sustainability means.
Okay.
I also think NGOs have had a major influence on holding brands accountable. And while as a brand, I don't like to say that is a big win, it actually has been a big win to bring brands together and unite them together as an industry alliance to say this is a systemic issue and we can help as brands to move the industry in a better place.
Does it take a crisis for that to happen though? Like I've kind of like going back to Rana Plaza and some others, I've always gotten the most engagement I've heard from, say, the internal sustainability directors. The most engagement we ever have is when there's a big crisis and they could finally say, yeah, we have to all work together in this crisis to solve this problem.
Yeah, I think we're over the crisis leading the collaboration, and I do believe that CEOs and officers really understand the business case for environmental sustainability and how it aligns with efficiency and lean manufacturing and cost of goods. And there really is a strong correlation between that. And even when you look at social labor and working hours, there's a strong correlation there between the quality of product they're actually delivering based off of the amount of time they work.
Okay. What's the challenge of, coming up with or overseeing the programs as they roll out? Like the strategy is going to be the strategy, but just rolling it out and getting things done. How complicated is that when you're a small team, or is that an advantage? Just kind of some thoughts.
I think there's two things for it being a small team: the amount of scale that we can really accomplish. Usually having 10 to 15 factories in a program at one time is really the bandwidth of what we can meaningfully approach. And so that kind of limits how fast you can move. I would say the other piece is we're still kind of this startup team, and so what's new in the industry is this move towards performance improvement programs, and so in a lot of cases you're building it as you go, really grassroots. And so it's really trial and error, and this didn't work, so let's try it this way. Having worked on programs for the last 4 years, we're starting to get into our groove. But then it's about how do you share that in the industry so that we can really begin to scale. Yeah.
And as you scale, I mean, can you just be the team of 7, 10, 12 that does it, or do you need to infect the other 30,000, 100,000 people in the organization?
You definitely need to infect the rest of the organization so that you start to influence their decisions, right? Either their decisions in the way they design, the decisions in the placement of the product, or their decisions in their purchasing power And so I think the other piece too about what we need to infect is the factory management. So as they start to work on performance improvement and they see wins, how do they take that and share that with other factories in their matrix, or even take that as, this has been a really great learning for me, and I'm now going to continue this cycle of continuous improvement within my factory. But there's really a blind spot or a lack of education within environmental management in certain countries.
Okay.
And so there's this choke point, if you will, on the level of engagement a factory can really get in without having a consultant come in and tell them what to do.
When you're trying to infect the members of your organization, I mean, well beyond your team, what are some tools that you found are like the best, what's the best hooks that you can throw out there so that you can start landing these ambassadors for you? So what's the best bait that you've found that really engages people and where you can really bring them on?
I would say the WIFM approach. What's in it for me?
Okay.
Right? So I tell my team, always say WIFM before you go meet with someone.
Okay.
And then you're really putting yourself in their shoes. So if I'm going to meet with someone from sourcing who really has the power over placement decisions, why would they care about the programs we're working on, or why would they care about environmental sustainability?
And if you were to think back and talk to yourself from 14 years ago, what would you tell, like what advice would you impart to her as she's starting her career?
I would tell myself to learn more about the other businesses in the organization. So you can really understand what are their daily pain points so that I can then tailor my message. And so throughout my career, I've really driven this highly collaborative environment, but it's more than just being collaborative and understanding what are their goals and objectives, what are they being held accountable to, and then how can we drive that together and being able to show the correlation of the work rather than just the building up a relationship.
And so how do you help them? Like what, someone's like, hey, I've got this great product, I think sustainability could add that extra oomph. What do you offer them?
I offer them the correlation between sustainability and efficiency, how that can help with their margin, how that can help with their manufacturing efficiency, and also the story. And so what story within this product can you tell to the guest? And
are there stories right now that the guests are more open to, or like they just, wow, like we thought they'd really care about that, but we haven't seen that take off yet?
Yeah, our guest is more keen to hear about chemicals rather than I think they care about the other elements of what's happening in manufacturing. Water, a good example. And I think other brands have done a great marketing campaign about water and using less water. But our guest has told us loud and clear through some of the work we've done in beauty and personal care that what they put on them or what they put on their child is important to them. And so as we work on sustainability, it's about how do we also tell that story of protecting our guests, whether it be through chemicals or organic products.
And so is therefore the guest really the main driver for a lot of these initiatives, and that way if you drive to the guest, you can get the salespeople on board, and with the salespeople come the rest of the management structure, or is it easier for regulatory focused kind of initiatives to take hold?
Regulatory we're always doing, so I wouldn't say that is the driver. Guest is a key element to that. They're the ones telling us with their wallet, they have the purchasing power to decide who they're going to buy the product from, and we believe that at Target the guest chooses us because they know that we're already doing it, even without us telling them. A lot of the time. So I wouldn't say that in every case the guest is telling us to do it. It's one of the elements we bring in, but we also want to make sure that we're looking out for the communities in which we operate, as well as the workers who are creating our product.
You've traveled to China 30-ish times, maybe up to 40. How important is it for you to be on the ground here? And when you come in, what is it that you're looking to learn or achieve or be able to take back with you?
Oh, I think it's very important to be on the ground and see the day-to-day. One of the things that's been so amazing to me is to see how quickly things can change and things can move forward. But the other piece is to see through your own eyes who of our factories is really industry leading versus who needs some help, and being able to make those connections face to face with our business partners goes a long way.
What are some challenges that you want to take on going forward, be it an issue or strategic? Like, what are the things that you really want to achieve, say, in the next 3 to 5 years? And, who are some organizations or who are some people that you want to reach out to externally to help get you there?
I wish I didn't have so many big ideas, but I would say chemicals in factories, and not just making sure workers have protective equipment. I think chemicals are the gateway drug, if you will, to the pollution. And if you can accomplish good chemical management or good chemical restrictions in factories and find solutions that are not regrettable, you can improve wastewater, you can improve air emissions, you can improve worker safety. You can improve how the guest reacts to that product if they get a rash or whatever. And so to me, if you can, I call chemicals the gateway drug to really the water, the air, the people. So that's what I want to accomplish. And there's a lot of, in my opinion, there's a lot of pride with different brands about chemicals right now. Like, I have the best RSL. I have the best restricted substances list. And I feel that we all fight over the nuances of parts per million and what that looks like, rather than coming together and saying, all right, let's approach it as like, let's take the top 5 hit list, let's work on it together, let's work with everyone, the chemical companies, the suppliers, and the designers, and innovate out of this together rather than, and put our egos aside.
So if you take on this big topic of chemicals, like tactically, what are some things that you think that you need to get done for you to actually climb that mountain to summit, mountain sustainability, as it were? What are some things that you're kind of like thinking you need to, what are tools you need or people you need on board?
The first is getting the people on board, even internally, to make sure that they understand how it's going to impact their business, especially our cross-functional partners or our designers. And then it's, now how do we tell the story about why we're making this decision? Because there are a lot of products out there that I think guests think are great and amazing, and that may not be a good solution for the earth. And so how then do you tell that story that, hey, this is what we're doing and this is how it might impact you, but join us in this journey? So it's really the communication, I think. Communication, storytelling, because then that communication then is about how do you go to other brands and ask for help. And that, I do think, is where things have changed over the last 5 years. And brands are working with each other, but we all still have a little ego.
Sure.
Yeah.
Long term, pessimist or optimist?
You have to be an optimist. in today's world, you have to believe in the humanity of people and the goodness of people and the fact that everybody wants to breathe clean air. Everybody wants to have a good working environment. And you have to believe that people are willing to pay $1 more for their product in order to create that environment. But I personally don't believe that you do have to pay more. I think it's more about that mindset and everyone understanding the business case and the need.
All right. Thank you very much. Told it'd be easy.
That's it? We're done?
That's it. We're done.
Okay.